So guys, what is going on? I hope you guys are well. Hope you guys are staying safe. Guys, I was watching Teddy Atlas and he was talking about Crawford and Manny, and basically said that he feels that Manny Pacquiao will be retired against Terence Crawford. He doesn't feel like Pacquiao is at that level, and he doesn't feel that Pacquiao is what he was. And as a lot of great fighters, this may be a step too far at this age, at 42 years of age, and against Keith Thurman. This is what he said. He said Keith Thurman obviously was a very good fighter, an excellent fighter, but Keith Thurman, didn't look great in his fight before the Pacquiao fight. He was 2 years off. He was injured. He came back. He wasn't the Keith Thurman, right? And Terence Crawford is basically much better than Keith Thurman. He's active, he's fresh. And Manny Pacquiao is obviously 2 years older. And I think that's a very good point that he made, that he is 2 years older. He's 2 years on. He's obviously, he's two years older. When you're 40 years of age, and 2 years is a big difference. When was the last time Manny fought? In 2019, in August, I believe. That's a long time ago. And remember, if this fight gets announced, it's probably going to be 2 years since Manny Pacquiao's fought, right? And I have my doubts whether the Crawford fight's going to happen, because I don't personally think, for some reason, I just don't think the Crawford fight's going to happen. I might be wrong. And, there's a lot of reports that, Manny's daring to be great for the one last time, and this, that, all that, and the other. But I don't know for sure, because, Sean Gibbons, who's Manny Pacquiao's represents MP Promotion, said, it's a load of nonsense. So I don't really know what to believe, and I don't know whether it is going on behind the scenes. It's taking a very, very long time. I think if Manny Pacquiao is going to fight again, I think everyone's just intrigued if he's going to fight again. We just don't know what Manny Pacquiao is doing, because we've been hearing rumors since the start of the year that Manny Pacquiao is going to fight him, Manny Pacquiao is going to do this, Manny Pacquiao is going to do that. But Manny Pacquiao, he hasn't, there's no fight been announced. And it's obviously Manny Pacquiao is a legend, and everyone's intrigued, always intrigued, when there's an event, there's an event around, involving Manny Pacquiao. People are always intrigued, especially when it's a boxing fight. We always want to see Manny Pacquiao fight. Everyone, I think, it's not just the Filipinos, but I think it's universal now in boxing. I think whether it's the UK, US, I think everywhere are invested in Manny Pacquiao. We all want to know he's one of the biggest names in the sport, one of the greatest fighters of all time. So I think people are just invested, and we know that we haven't got a lot left to see him. There's only another, at max, 1.5 years before he, calls it a day. So I think people are just want to see him for the one last time, or max 2 more times. I think he's going to fight once or twice, and that's it. Twice at the max, I think, maximum. I can't see him fighting more than 2 times now. And I think if he fights someone like Crawford, it might be the last time. Win or lose, by the way, not just if he wins. Who knows? He may want to go and fight Spence. Spence is the other unified champion, but I very much doubt it. I think if he fights Crawford or Spence, I think that will be his last fight. He will obviously go into those fights as underdog, but I think even if he wins or loses, I think he would have proved his point if he wins. I don't think there's any point of him fighting Spence after that. Or if he fights Spence or Crawford, no matter who he fights, I don't think there would be any point of him fighting anyone else after that. So if he fights Crawford, there's no point of him fighting Spence. I don't think. Knowing Pacquiao, you don't know what he does. He may even take the leap even further. But I think he should just fight one of them and then call it a day, because I think he's at an age now where you don't want to put too much stress on your body. And if he fights Crawford or he fights Spence, they're going to be hard fights. They're going to be physically very draining. They're going to take a lot out of him. It's going to be very hard in training camp, and then the fight's going to be tough. There's no way I can't see the Crawford fight not being tough. It could, listen, it could be a case where, you know, he gets pickpocketed. And what I mean by that is that, like what Mayweather did to him, where it wasn't really much of a fight, where Crawford stays outside, uses his long reach and height, to keep it at distance and look to outbox Manny. But I think Crawford takes more chances than Mayweather. Crawford's not as defensively as sound as Mayweather. So I think he's going to give Manny Pacquiao, and I think he's more aggressive. I think he's more aggressive and throws more punches, which obviously will mean he hits Manny more, and he's very fast as well. Listen, it's an intriguing fight, but I do think, regardless of the result, I think what Teddy Atlas is saying is that Crawford will probably put a beat down on Manny Pacquiao, which will send him into retirement. That wouldn't surprise me. Manny Pacquiao's 42 years of age. So would it surprise me if Terence Crawford puts a beat down on Manny Pacquiao and Manny Pacquiao retires? No, because, when you're 42 years of age, you're only one fight away from retiring, so I do kind of agree. I do think that even if he wins, he'll retire. I think if he loses, and especially if he loses badly, I can't see him fighting. Obviously, Manny Pacquiao's had quite a few losses, so it's not like a loss is going to deter Manny Pacquiao, because Manny Pacquiao, if he's competitive with Crawford and loses a decision, or then there's no reason why he can't continue. He can continue to have maybe an exhibition fight with Conor or something. That still would sell. But yeah, it just depends on how you lose. I think if you get completely blown away, Manny Pacquiao would know that he's not that Manny Pacquiao, so then he'd retire from boxing for sure. But if he, like I said, if it's close, maybe you never know, might rematch Crawford if it's close, or it's a tight decision, or he wins. I think even if he wins close, I think he'll retire as well, because what a way that would be to go out, you beating Thurman and Crawford. Imagine that. At 42 years of age, this guy's beating Thurman and Crawford and then retiring. Imagine what that does for his legacy. This guy has beaten another generation of welterweights. Beating Keith Thurman for me was like beating another generation. Like for me, Keith Thurman is like 3 generations after Pacquiao, right? Now there's another generation coming through in like Ortiz and Ennis. That's another generation from Spence, Thurman, Porter. I think Garcia was probably the generation before. Garcia has been around for a very long time. Garcia was around from, the Amir Khan days, 2011, 2010. Like, when did he fight Amir Khan, Garcia? I think it was 2011, It was 2012, like a long time ago. Almost 9 years ago. This is what I mean. Like, Garcia was a name when he beat Khan. He became a huge name. And his profile rocketed. So, yeah, Manny Pacquiao's fighting guys that are, 2-3 generations after him, man. It's incredible what he's doing, man. And even for him to fight Crawford is exceptional. If he was to beat him, that would just put him on another level. Put him on another level. I think he's more than capable. But I just think at this stage, there's no way anyone can favor him with confidence. Because at the end of the day, you don't know what he's got left. That's the question. I don't know what Pacquiao's got left. Pacquiao might not be nowhere near the same fight. He might have aged. Father time catches up. We don't know. That's the intrigue about the fight. We don't know if the Pacquiao that fought Keith Thurman turns up. Then it's a good fight. Then it's a cracking fight. But is it going to be that Pacquiao? Has Pacquiao been training? Has Pacquiao been sparring? All these things. See, as you get older, it gets harder. Training gets harder. Your body gets weaker. Your ability to take a shot gets worse. Everything, your stamina gets worse. You don't recover as quickly from training sessions. Your body's a lot more sore. There's a lot of things that become difficult as you get older. Very difficult. And like I said, this pandemic wouldn't have helped the situation, because like I said, people were in a lockdown. And like I said, these famous people like Pacquiao that have got a lot of money, I'm pretty sure they've got facilities in their home, but it's still not the same. Do you understand? It's still not the same. So it's a tough one. Pacquiao's a legend, but it is tough. Crawford may end up retiring him. could well be true. I think I don't disagree with Atlas, but at the same time, I do think, depending on which Pacquiao turns up, if we get the same Pacquiao from the Thurman fight, it may still not be good enough to win, but it's dangerous. And like I said to you, Crawford gives you a chance. Crawford gives you a chance. Crawford is not Mayweather. Crawford will attack. Crawford is a fence-minded fighter. You know, yeah, he can be defensively sound, but I do think he's an offense-minded fighter, and he will take chances. And Pacquiao can punch, and Pacquiao's really fast, and Pacquiao could hurt Terence Crawford without question. So for me, it's still an intriguing fight, but a fight where Manny Pacquiao at this age is daring to be great. He's daring to, you know, leap even further than what he already has in his career. You know, 8 division world champion. He's just, it's unbelievable. You know, it's an unbelievable feat, that alone. And then now taking on a guy that's, you know, in his prime, pound for pound, considered number 1 or 2 in the world. It's great. It's great stuff from Manny Pacquiao. You have to give him credit, because imagine if he wins, he won't just be, in my opinion, he won't just, you know, at 42 years of age, he won't just become a champion. He'd become pound for pound again, one of the best in the world. Like most pound for pound lists don't include Manny Pacquiao now. And listen, I do agree that I think although Manny for me is still a top fighter, I don't think, because he's not been active and there's been other fighters fighting, you can't really put him in the top 10. However, if he was to beat Crawford, he goes to number 1 because of what he's done in the past and the fact that he's just beaten one of the best pound for pound. I think you have to put him up there as number 1, because his resume is way better than Canelo's resume, right? And I just think with a win like Crawford, Canelo hasn't done anything. Canelo hasn't got beaten anyone at that kind of level, or Crawford's level, you know, on the pound for pound list. Like all the guys that he's fighting aren't pound for pound fighters. So Pacquiao would just smash that, and he goes to number 1 for me if he was to beat Crawford. So imagine that at 42 years of age, Manny Pacquiao won't just be becoming a world champion again. He'd be becoming one of the best pound for pound fighters, or in my opinion, the best. He should be ranked number 1 if he beats Crawford at 42. I don't know how many times that's been done in history, but I think it's very few and far between. If Manny Pacquiao beats Terence Crawford, he becomes, not at 42 years of age, he becomes the number 1 pound for pound fighter in the world. Now, I don't know. I might be wrong. I don't know whether there's been a fighter in history that at 42 years of age has been pound for pound the best in the world. I'd be very surprised if there was. Listen, my memory don't go back that far, and I can't think of a fighter at 42 years of age that became the pound for pound best in the world, but I don't think there was anybody. I might be wrong, and if there is somebody, please tell me in the comment section. But I don't think at 42 years of age, and for me, if Manny was to beat Crawford, he becomes pound for pound number 1. And how incredible would that be at 42? That's like I said, it's unheard of what this guy's doing. Like, even him taking the fight, you've got to give him respect. But if he was to go and beat Crawford and become, and you know, you have to say at 42 years of age, an 8 division world champion, probably becomes the number 1 pound for pound at 42. He's one of the greatest ever, you know. And I don't really want to say, you know, is he the greatest, because it's too subjective. When you start talking about great, what do you look at? 8 division world champion, or do you look at the guys that Ali fought? Do you look at the Sugar Robinson, what he did, Floyd Mayweather? You know, there's many things that, you know, people can think are great. There's many differences to it, but he becomes one of the greatest. Where you want to rank him is up to you. He becomes one of the greatest. He's top 5 for sure. Top 5 greatest fighters of all time. If, like, whether he beats, I would still have him in there. Some people would think I'm absurd putting him in there. Like, some people wouldn't don't even think Pacquiao's top 10. But for me, I'm a little biased, of course. For me, he's definitely up there as a top 10 greatest fighter for 100%. And for me personally, top 5 greatest of all time. I definitely put Manny up there. I definitely put Manny up there as top 5, you know. And listen, some may disagree, but it's subjective, you know. It's just my opinion. I'm not saying I'm right, but I just think Manny Pacquiao, 8 division world champion, look at what he's done in the game. 8 division world champion, it's unheard of. And then the way he's beaten some of the opponents, you have to say that this guy's He's a living ledge. And if he beats Terence Crawford, does he become one of the greatest ever? You know, some of the historians will laugh and not agree. But you can definitely make a case for it. You know, he'd become the number one pound for pound fighter in the world if he beats Terence Crawford, without question, in my opinion. If Manny beats Terence Crawford with what he's done in the past and the fact that he'd be beating pound for pound one of the best in the world, for me, Manny Pacquiao becomes the number one pound for pound fighter in the world at 42. I don't think that's ever been done before. Correct me if I'm wrong. If there's a fighter at 42 years of age that was pound for pound the best in the world, and what I mean, like, I personally think that he would be number one, right? Because Canelo, although, yeah, he's been doing great things of late, but he hasn't had a win like a Crawford. Like, Crawford is considered top 2 pound for pound right now. Right? Manny Pacquiao would just be beating somebody in the top 2 pound for pound. Canelo, if you look at Callum Smith wasn't in the top 10 pound for pound. Billy Joe Saunders isn't in the top 10 pound for pound. And Yildirim was definitely not in the top 10 pound for pound. Jacobs hasn't been in the top 10 pound for pound. The only guy that he's beat that was in the top 10 pound for pound is Golovkin. Right? So Pacquiao would be beating somebody. And Golovkin, was he ever as high as Crawford? Was he ranked? I know he might have been in the top 5, but I don't think he was ever ranked. I don't think he was ever ranked 2. So Manny Pacquiao, by beating Terence Crawford, could potentially become the best pound for pound fighter in the world at 42 years of age. Honestly, he does. He becomes the best pound for pound fighter in the world. And that's crazy at 42. This is why I say that's what's attached to fighting and beating Terence Crawford for Manny Pacquiao. Because right now, Manny Pacquiao has dropped out of the top 10 pound for pound in most lists. But if he was to beat Crawford, he becomes number 1 in my opinion. But that's just my take. Leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think Manny Pacquiao becomes the number 1 pound for pound fighter at the age of 42 if he beats Terence Crawford? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And guys, remember to please like, share, subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.